going on, everybody? Just went and checked my mail and had a little package from FedEx shipped from Sparta, Wisconsin. So it's always a good day when you get a package from Mathews Inc. But the time has come now for me to swap strings and cables on my Title 38. And so I placed an order with them to get a new set of match strings, and they got them built and shipped them to me. So thanks to those guys for taking care of me. But I figured I'd do a video on how to swap strings and cables on a Title 38. It's not a very hard process, but it can be. There's some do's and don'ts to it, and there's for sure ways you can really mess it up if you're not careful. So I'll show you a couple things, and hopefully you learn something. And if you have questions, for sure reach out. But we'll hop in the shop and get started. I'm pretty excited to get some new strings on my bow. All right, so we're in the shop. I've got my bow in the Last Chance archery press, and I just want to go over a couple things that make this job much simpler. And if you're going to work on your own bow, I definitely would recommend, especially on switching strings, I would definitely recommend having these tools and kind of going through these steps first. So after I got the bow in the press, what I did is I took the stabilizers off, so that way they were out of my way. I didn't have to worry about them. And what I do always is I try and go through and I take measurements, really accurate measurements. And what I'm really looking for is I like to measure the overall length from the string to the end of my D-loop. So I've got a really accurate measurement on my overall D-loop length. I like to measure this distance right here from, I'll do like the top knot of my D-loop to center of the peep. So that way when I get my new strings on, I won't have a peep in there yet, but I've got a pretty good starting point for where I like it. And then I also like to take the axle to axle measurement on each bow that I have when I switch strings. So that way I know kind of where it was at. Every bow is going to be a little different. It's going to like a certain axle to axle. It's going to like a certain, it's going to like a certain recipe, if you will, for what it likes to shoot and how it's going to shoot for you. Some of the tools that I highly recommend using for this is the HS4 Last Chance archery scale, the draw scale. This is really handy. What I do is I go in and I measure, it measures the draw weight, and it also measures the let off. So when I've got a really good accurate measurement of that way when I put my new strings on, I can draw it back and I'll be able to tell what the difference is and what adjustments I need to make if I want to try and make it very similar to what the bow is shooting right now. So this is a really cool tool to have. I also recommend, if you're going to do this at home or by yourself, is a draw board. So I've got the Last Chance archery draw board. That's just for timing your bow. So that way you make sure each module is hitting at the same time so that your timing is as good as it can be. I also like a set of these Easton knock pliers. These are really nice for tying D-loops and just overall working D-loops and getting it set up once you get your new strings on. And then a couple of Allen keys. I've got the large and the small. So that way you can work on getting the cams off, because we will have to take the cams off the axle to get these split yolks on, which is probably the most difficult part of switching strings on a Mathews, is getting these yolks on. So that's what we're going to do first. But before I ever do that and strip these strings and cables, I like to have really good measurements of everything. I'll even measure the overall brace height of the bow, just so I have a rough idea of what it was, because it's probably going to change once I get these new strings on. So, and I want to make sure if it's a good shooting bow, this bow's been pretty good to me. lately. I want to try and duplicate as much as I can and get it as close as I can to the way it was. So those are just some of the things, some of the tools that you should try and have before you set off on stripping your bow and putting new strings and cables on it. All right, so I am in the process now of taking this axle out on the top part of the cam. It's the same process, top or bottom. But what I did is I loosened this little Allen key right here, and then you just take a skinny Allen and put it in the hole and push a little bit, and it'll pop this axle out. And you usually can just pull this axle. It might be a little sticky, but you can just pull this axle, and now just try and keep everything clean and keep everything organized. But now I'm able to pull this cam off and get these yolks off. So that's kind of step one, if you will, when you're stripping your bow, is just getting those split yolks off and not dropping your cam in the dirt. We will need this black plastic piece, so you will need to keep that. So I like to get both of those off and get those ready to go on the bow with the new yolks. So that is step number one. Pretty easy. Like I said, just get those Allen keys loose, pull the screw, pop the axle, pull it off, pull the whole cam off, get the yolks off, and you should be home free. All right, so I've got the old strings and cables off. Another little tip that I'll give you if this is your first time doing it is to take a picture of your bow with the strings and cables, and so that way you have that to reference. Should you get to a point and you're like, oh, I don't really know where that cable or that string actually went. If it's your first time putting strings and cables on your own bow, just take a short video or a picture, a couple pictures on each cam and on the cable guard, so that way you know which cable goes to which cam and which yoke goes to which cam and vice versa. Okay, what I really love about the match strings already, and I didn't know this going into it, but I love this, is the way they package them. So they've got each piece separated in a separate package. So that's the string right there. We'll put that on last. Here are the two control cables. They're each separate. And then here are the two yokes, and those are separate as well. And the big deal about that, guys, is a lot of other string manufacturers will ship all of that in one package, and you got to dig through it and pull them all out and get them all separated. And what ends up happening is you usually have the strings, the cables, the yokes, whatever, one of the three will lose a twist, or it'll gain a twist, or it'll get kind of messed up when you're trying to unpackage it. So the match bow strings, I really like this. I can just go in, if I'm working on one yoke, I can grab one yoke and literally pull it out of the package. I don't have to worry about my string or my cable coming undone or getting wrapped up in the yoke, anything silly like that. And so it'll be very easy, very precise. Opportunity to take the cams off and clean them. I just got back from Reading and it was extremely windy, dusty, dirty, and you can just see my bow took an absolute beating, hence why I need new strings. But this is a good opportunity where you'll have the cams off of the bow and you can clean and kind of wipe everything down. I take these just simple wet wipes and just keep everything nice and clean, inspect the bow, make sure everything looks good. But yeah, take that opportunity when you've got it to clean your bow. All right, so I just pulled one of the yoke cables, the split yoke cables, out of the package, and you can see that they paper clipped them together so that way they wouldn't lose any twists or come undrawn or anything like that. And what we're going to do is we're just going to very carefully take this paper clip off without damaging the string, and We're going to keep everything nice and neat. And that way we don't have to worry about anything happening. And then what we're going to do is we are going to just pull our cam off again, and we're going to line these up on each of the circular pieces here where they align, like so. And get those in the track nice and neat. This one's kind of fighting me. Like that. And then put the cam back in. Try and keep these in the track if you can. Okay, cam's back in. What I like to do is I'll pull on these pretty tight and put some tension on them. And then that way they kind of stay there. That's super nice. And then they kind of stay like that, and it's pretty easy from there. All right, so the next step is to take the plastic yoke splitter, this bad boy that we took off, and put it back into the split yoke. And what I like to do is, again, I'll run it in the track, make sure your split yoke is in the track, and I'll actually pull pretty hard. I'll put tension on that, and then it's got enough memory in it where it'll hold it just like that. And then what I like to do is we're done with the cam itself, and we can put our axle back in. So this is the top one. We'll do this on the bottom one as well, but basically what we do here is we put our axle back in. It takes a little bit of finesse. You got to kind of play with it to get it lined up again. But we'll get it back in like so. There's one. And there's the other one. And bada bing, bada boom. That axle's back in there. And we'll put that bolt in there. You want to make sure that you get those axles snug. Not overly snug, but you want to make sure you tighten these down at a good rate. If you leave them loose, you're going to have a lot of issues with your left and rights. Okay, so right there is a decent amount. And then we're going to do the same thing that I just did on the bottom cam. So you just want to repeat this on the bottom cam. All right, so this is one of my control cables. It still has the paper clip on, so I don't have to worry about losing anything. But took one of them out, and basically the next step is to run that control cable through itself using this yoke. So it's going to run through itself, through this yoke, and we're going to thread it, and then it goes to the cable guard. The top yoke runs through the inside track, so this inside track right here on the cable guard, it'll come through there, and then it'll come and it'll attach to this cam. And then we'll take the other cable, the control cable, and we'll run it from this yoke through itself, run it down, and it'll run on the outside, this outside one right here. Oh, I got something right there. I gotta clean that. But anyways, this outside track right here on the cable guard, and that'll run and attach to this cam on the side of the cam. The control cables are both the same size, so we don't have to worry about mixing them up or anything like that. But the same thing, we don't want to lose any twist or add any extra twist to this, so we want to be really careful when we take it off the paper clip to make sure that we don't lose anything. Okay, so I'm going to do that right now, and I'll let you know how that looks when I get it done. I just want to show this really quick. On that split yoke, there on the control cable, there's a long section of unserved that goes through your split yoke. So there's a loop. You literally put the loop through the hole on the split yoke, and then you feed the cable end, which is down here. I've attached it to this cam. You attach that to, or you feed that through this hole, and you loop it through and then run it through your cable guard and then run it to that cam. That looks a little messy right now, but once I get the other one on, it'll kind of clean it up. All right, so I got the bottom control cable on. Same process, the long unserved end, you put that end through the hole of the yoke, then you run the other end through itself like that, run it up. It's going to go on the outside of the cable guard. It's going to run on the outside track, and then it runs up and to the cam on that notching point right there. So now we got something like this. Our cables, our control cables are on, our split yokes are on, and now the finishing touch is putting the string on and putting a little bit of tension on back on the string and the cables and the whole setup and getting everything to run straight in the tracks. That's kind of the last little bit. So we're going to do that. I'm going to get the string out. String's in there. I'm going to get it out. I'm going to run the string through the cam, and then I'm slowly just going to release the pressure on this press and put a little bit of tension back in the limbs, and make sure that you want to double check and make sure that everything is in the correct spot, that it's running in the track, it's not in the cam or anything weird. You want to make sure that nothing's hung up on your mods or nothing's caught in a weird spot, because you can damage your string and cables really badly, actually, if you're not careful at this with this part. So I'm gonna get the string out, we're gonna put that on, and then we'll put a little tension on it and see how it looks. All right, I think everybody knows this, but the top part of the string will have this little piece that separates the string for your peep sight. So that goes on the top. You can see we've got it running through the track, and it is attached right there on the main one. You can see it under that split yoke. It's attached there. Run it through. Same thing. We just want to double check everything that's attached. I can see my yokes need some work there, so the split yokes, I'll run those through the track. But the string itself looks really good. Okay, so I've got the string on. I got both yokes on. I got both control cables on. And basically what I'm doing here is I'm just putting tension on it with my finger, and then I'm gonna release, I'm gonna loosen my press, and I'm gonna put tension on the strings and cables very slowly and just set everything in place. And you want to make double sure that everything is in the correct spot. And the reason I say that is because I already see an issue. If you look right there, you can see that that control cable isn't running in the correct track. And that's why you double check your work. Just like that. Now it's in the correct track. It's not going to damage it. It's not going to hurt it. You want to double check that. It should run in a track really close to your mod. That one, it's tough to see, but that one's good as well. Okay, so we're just going to slowly release the pressure on this, and it should settle in nicely. All right. So there we go. There's the new sets of strings and cables on the bow. They look really nice. This is that buckskin color from Match Grade Strings. So one thing that's really nice about Mathews bows is they've got these timing marks built into the cam. And you can see that hole right there. You can see right there, that hole right there, that circle with the control cable running through it. Those will actually tell you how close your timing is. And that one looks pretty good, but I can already see, you look at the top one, it's not quite there. It's not quite there. So I'm having a feeling that my timing's going to need a little work. I'm not going to just start messing with stuff until I get a D-loop on. But I'm going to tie a D-loop on the bow, and I'm going to run an arrow through. And I'm actually just going to get it in my draw board and see what it looks like in the draw board as far as the timing. And I'll get a quick measurement, couple measurements on axle to axle, and see how it looks. But overall, really like the way those turned out. I was a little worried about the color. It was kind of a risk, but looks pretty nice on that mint bow. All right, so I'm just getting ready to tie a D-loop. And I'm using 23 BCY as my loop material. It's a little difficult to work with, I won't lie to you, but to me it's a lot more durable. It's definitely more pliable. I like it for a loop, and I think you'll find a majority of pros that run this material for a loop is this 23. So you want to fray out the very end, and then the key, grab a lighter. The key is not to overburn it, but you can overburn BCY 23 and it won't really form a button for you. What I do, a little trick, is take it with some pliers and pinch it right underneath that and then burn it. You just want to melt that. Once you get that, you can take the pliers off and it'll start to form a button. And you can kind of tap that very end piece like that, and you'll form a nice little button with it. And that's what you want. We're going to do the same thing on this end. Alright guys, so got the strings and cables on, tied a D-loop on, and got it in my drawboard. And as I suspected, because I looked at the timing marks, I felt like my top cam was going to be ahead of my bottom cam, and you can see there is my top cam. There's the mod. Maybe it's easier to see it from this side, but you can see it's hitting that cable right there. Down here, not so much. Got some space there. So I'm gonna put a twist in this this top cam in the cable that attaches the top cam. I'm gonna put one twist in that and then put it back in the drawboard and see what that looks like. All right, so we're back in the drawboard, and I put a couple of twists in the top and I took a half twist out of the bottom. And now you can see I've got them really close. I'm gonna touch them here with this. And you can see there's a little bit of space there between the draw stop, and then they touch. Same thing on the bottom. Try and get it as good as I can. A little bit of space there, and then they touch. And that's what we're looking for with cam time. You know, I like to run them dead even to start and just go from there. But a little bit of work to get it timed, but that is basically where we want to start with the timing. Super nice having a drawboard. So we're able to just boom, time it up just like that. And it's a good starting point to make sure that we're gonna have good up and down consistency with our arrow flight and our nock travel. All right, so it's the next day. I ran out of light there last night, so I couldn't shoot. But what I did is I got the bow timed, and then I ran an arrow down the center, and I run it just a little bit tall through the burger button. And I tied a loop, measured out a loop, got it to about the same length that I had on it before. No knocking point. I will tie a knocking point in once I get everything kind of set where I want it. And then I measured from the top knot up to the string, that measurement that I had written down on my old strings, and just put the peep in. And it's been pretty awesome, actually. I'm just shooting my first groups. This is 50 yards. It's kind of hard to see. Let's go down there and look at them. But this is what I do after I get the paper on. is I will, I like to, or after I get the strings on, excuse me, I like to get the bow dialed in. I normally will throw an arrow through paper just to see and make sure that it's good. I actually didn't this time. I didn't throw anything through paper. Felt like it would be pretty good. Arrows seem to be flying really good. So this is like my first group at 50. We'll take that. I mean, for new strings, that's literally like arrow 10. You could see I was having trouble getting sighted in there, but got it pretty much middle. And now basically what I do is I just move my rest around until these fletchings are touching at 50, and then I know that I've got it where I need it. And that's not bad. I mean, that's, I don't know, you know, this one, wind probably got me a little bit, but these ones felt really good. So, but yeah, that's what I do, guys. Like, I got the strings on, and just take really good measurements so that way you can get your bow really close to what it was. And I got it at the same poundage, same let off that I had on the bow before the new strings. So just take really good measurements. That's my biggest advice to you, is write everything down, and you shouldn't have any problem. So hope you guys get something from that video. Let me know if you have questions, and shoot them up, shoot them straight. Thanks, guys.